Have you ever wondered what this lever is on your Janome CoverPro machine? Perhaps your lever goes horizontally. Does it say STD and fine, or maybe it says STD and tight? The STD setting, as you may imagine, stands for standard. This is the setting you will use for most medium weight, sturdier fabrics like this denim. Beautiful. The fine setting we will use for lighter weight fabrics, those that are really stretchy, like in lingerie and swimwear. Lacier fabrics like this stretch lace tank top, or think of your knits for athletic wear, leisure wear that have a lot of stretch in them. We'll typically use the fine setting. Beautiful with all that stretch, no puckering. Another instance where we will switch from standard to fine is sometimes as we're stitching along in our fabric, and when we get to this seam, that extra bulk, we need to tighten up our lower looper. Now, instead of adjusting the tensions up here, we can switch from standard to fine in this case. This is a pre-tensioner to the lower looper, so we don't have to adjust the tensions up here. We can just simply flick this switch as we're stitching up to this seam. Then once we cross the seam, we can switch it back to standard and continue. Here's a pair of these fleece pajama pants, and maybe you will see where my stiletto is. Do you see? That is a skipped stitch. I was stitching along just fine. In the bulk of the garment here, it's stitched beautifully, but just going over this seam with that extra bit of bulk, there is that little skipped stitch right here. Now, again, the machine itself was stitching fine. Look at all that beautiful stitching. There was no problem, except when it came to that bulky seam of the side seam. To eliminate that skipped stitch, what we will do is go from standard to tight, just as we're getting up and over that seam. By switching over from standard to tight, just as it crosses the seam there, look at that, no skipped stitch. It works beautifully. We will start from standard for most medium weight fabrics. But as we're coming up to the seam, we will stop, switch the lever over to fine. And again, this is a pre-tensioner of the lower looper, so I don't have to fiddle with my tensions up here. I just simply flick this over to fine. That'll tighten up the threads. I cross that seam. Now I can switch back to standard to complete my seam. And you'll see what a beautiful finish that is. No skip stitches, no skip stitches. It looks great. Happy sewing.